Some places just feel heavy. They're just packed with history. And Turgo Hill, which sits right in the shadow of Indonesia's super volatile Mount Merapi, is absolutely one of those places. It's this one single spot where you have ancient faith, modern warfare, prophetic warnings, and just unimaginable tragedy all colliding and sinking right into the soil. So let's dig in.
Yeah, at the very heart of this hill story is just an incredible human tragedy. A moment of pure celebration that was about to be violently and permanently interrupted. It's a stark reminder that nature's power is absolute, and it really doesn't care about our plans.
So to really understand the secrets buried here, we have to start with the story that's closest to the surface. A day when the mountain didn't just rumble, it screamed.
Okay, so try to picture this scene. It's the morning of November 22nd, 1994. The air is filled with excitement. A local family is getting everything ready for a wedding. But as midday hits, Mount Merapi just awakens with this violent roar. And by the afternoon, that celebration has turned into an absolute scene of horror as a pyroclastic flow comes pouring down on top of them.
The human cost, it was just devastating. 64 people died. And that number, it doesn't just include the wedding guests and their hosts, it also includes the incredibly brave members of rescue teams who ran towards the danger, trying to help, only to be consumed by the mountain's heat themselves.
So what exactly is an awan panas? Well, the scientific term for it is a pyroclastic flow. And this is not lava. It's something way, way deadlier. I want you to think of a superheated avalanche of gas, ash, and rock, moving faster than a hurricane. It is completely unsurvivable. It just incinerates everything in its path.
But here's where it gets even stranger. This isn't just a story about a natural disaster, it's also a story about a disaster that some people believe was foretold. So now, we're going to peel back another layer, a layer of folklore and mysticism, to look at the warnings that came before the fire.
Get this. Just days before the eruption, a relative of the family hosting the wedding had this incredibly vivid and terrifying dream. A village elder appeared and warned that a great wedding was about to take place, a mythical marriage between the spirit of Mount Merapi and the spirit of the Southern Sea. And for this massive supernatural event, all humans needed to get out of the way.
And tragically, nobody listened. The warning was dismissed. It was called Bunga Tidur, which literally means flower of sleep. It's the local way of saying it's just a meaningless dream, nothing to worry about. So the preparations for the human wedding continued. Completely unaware, they were setting the stage for disaster.
You see, this event created this profound clash between faith and reality. For generations, the locals believed in this protective barrier called the Benang Layang, basically an invisible kite string that marked the absolute limit of Merapi's rage. They truly believed the awan panas could never cross it. But on that day in 1994, the hot clouds didn't just cross the line, they obliterated it. And that belief, forever.
Okay, so now we're going to go even deeper, peeling back a much, much older layer. Long before the 1994 tragedy, long before anyone living could even remember, Turgo Hill was already sacred ground. This was not just any hill, it was a spiritual beacon.
And here's a wild geological fact. Turgo Hill is ancient. It's actually older than the massive volcano of Merapi itself. This land has been sitting here, a silent witness, for an incredible stretch of time, which might explain why it has such a deep spiritual significance.
Now, to really understand why this place is so important, we need to get a key spiritual distinction. A maqam is a physical grave. There's a body in it. But a maqam, that's different. It's more of a spiritual monument, a marker for a place where a holy person spent time praying, teaching, meditating. And Turgo Hill is home to a very important maqam.
This particular maqam marks the presence of Sheikh Jamaluddin Kubro. This guy was a major figure, a Sufi saint, a direct descendant of the Prophet Muhammad. He showed up in Java way before the famous Wali Songo, or the Nine Saints, and he chose this quiet peak for his spiritual contemplation. It basically became this pivotal place that bridges Java's ancient Hindu-Buddhist history with its Islamic identity.
But the hill story doesn't just stop there. We're going to jump forward centuries to find another, much more modern layer of significance, a secret role during the Second World War.
So during their occupation, the Japanese military set up several strategic posts all around Yogyakarta, and each one had a specific job. Turgo Hill was chosen because of its high vantage point. It was absolutely perfect for monitoring the city down below and for critical radio communications. So what did they do? They dug in. They built bunkers and caves right into the side of this holy mountain. Their military installations were just meters away from the sacred maqam of Sheikh Jumadil Kubro. Can you just imagine that contrast? The quiet, contemplative energy and the harsh, combative energy coexisting on the same hill?
But here's the thing. The Japanese didn't just see a good spot for a radio tower. They recognized its power. To them, Mount Merapi was kind of like their own sacred Mount Fuji, a place of immense spiritual energy. And in their worldview, this kind of power wasn't just something to be respected. It was something to be synchronized with, to be claimed.
And that brings us to the final, the deepest, and honestly, the darkest secret buried in Turgo Hill's soil. This is where military occupation bleeds into a cult ritual. It's the hill's most hidden story. To spiritually anchor their presence and claim the mountain's power for their war effort, the Japanese commander stationed here performed a dark ritual. The whole point was to fuse their military energy with the ancient spiritual energy of the land itself.
Here's how it went down. The ritual was simple, but incredibly potent. The commander, a man named Yuichi Nagahara, took his military sword, a shingunto, and he cut his own hand. He let his blood drip onto the sacred ground, and then he plunged the blood-soaked sword right into the earth, a spiritual and a territorial marker. And the echoes of that ritual, they linger. The sword is believed to still be buried there, a nexus of intense energy that's now guarded by supernatural entities. The spirit of Commander Nagahara is also said to remain, filled with regret for what he did. And in this really grim symmetry, his story on that hill ended just as it began, with blood, as he ultimately committed ritual suicide, or harakiri, right there.
So you've got tragedy, faith, war, and ritual. A wedding that turned to ash, foretold in a dream. A sacred site for an ancient saint. A secret wartime outpost anchored by a dark blood ritual. All of these stories, all of these energies, are buried together in the soil of this one single hill.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? As you walk through the world, how many other places just like this hold these forgotten layers of history right under our feet, just waiting for someone to start digging?